Everybody for coming. And sorry that Meriem couldn't be here with us today, but we'll just have a conversation between myself and Karima. So first I wanted to say thank you to the British Council and particularly to Abir. Thank you for organizing this. And then I wanted to introduce Karima. So Karima Ahdad is a Moroccan author based in Istanbul. She's been working in journalism and digital content production since 2014, and she's published 3 novels. Cactus Girls, published by Darafenek in 2018, A Turkish Dream, published in 2021, and The Other Woman, which came out in 2024, a year ago. She won the Moroccan Writers Union Award for young writers in the short story category, and her novel Cactus Girls won a Mohamed Zifzaf Award in 2020. She also was shortlisted for our Story Prize in 2021, and she was the winner of our Arabic Flash Fiction contest in this last year, which the book just came out at the beginning of March. So thank you so much, Karima, for being here today.
Thank you, Marcia, and thank you for everyone for coming. Thank you to the British Council for organizing this event. I don't have a mic.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. Okay. Thanks to the British Council.
I think you have to
turn it on.
I think you have to go turn it on.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's working now. Thanks to the British Council for organizing this event. Thanks to Marcia for the introduction. To Arab Lit and Komet Kashakil for organizing the short story prize that I won for my short story, A Slender Thorn Digs Into My Food. And yeah.
Yes, and we thought the title of her story was so evocative that we named the whole collection after it. And thank you again for submitting to this prize. So I'm going to start out just by talking a little bit about what is Arab Lit and what we do and what our publishing model is for, I assume, pretty much everybody except Karima is unfamiliar. And then we will get into questions for Karima. So I, Marcia, Lynx, Qualey, am the founding editor of Arab Lit Quarterly, and Arab Lit Books, which won a Literary Translation Initiative Award at the 2017 London Book Fair and an Ottaway Award for the promotion of international literature in 2024. So the idea behind Arab Lit is to create a different kind of model for literature and translation that is not the university press model or even the small press model, but that works in a different way and really is about opening things up to a wider range, both among the writers who participate and the readers. It's about creating new audiences for literature and translation. So I just wanted to talk briefly about 3 of the kind of things that we do to kind of give a sense of what Arab Lit is. This is the first one I want to talk about. So the idea behind the Story Prize, which we did with Komet Kashakil, was to open up to Arab writers everywhere in the world who you don't need any kind of publication credits, you don't need to know anybody, you don't need to have gone into any particular program, have any certification. We opened it up to anyone to write a short story under 1,000 words. Just no fees, no nothing, just send it to our email address. This, of course, resulted in more than 900 stories that we had to read through, which is a lot. But then, it also, we found short stories, not just from writers who are already accomplished, such as Karima and Nasser Rabah, who's our second prize, but Azza Abdel Nawar, who was our third prize. This was her first published short story. There was also a Syrian writer in the book who he's 60, and this was his literary debut. So we also, with our partner Komet Kashakil, made audio versions of the stories to also try and reach out to new audiences, to bring the stories out in different ways, to create new interest in literature and translation that's not just about being in the classroom or, you know, in order to learn something about a country, but it's about enjoying the literature in and of itself in many different ways. We also publish a magazine, and this isn't, it's coming out at the end of this month. This is our quarterly magazine. This is the Grief issue, which is our next issue. And one of the ways we try and open, which is, it's largely reader and advertiser supported, and one of the ways we try and open it up is we had asked people to submit letters to people who can no longer receive them. Say somebody who, you know, who died in Gaza, somebody who you only knew on, you know, as, on the screen, but, you know, to write a letter to share our, to bring our grief together. And 6 of those appear in the print magazine, and then many more will appear on our website to kind of, to open it up, to allow many more people to participate in this kind of shared literary exercise. And then we have one of our upcoming projects. We're going to translate My Ziyada's Sawani Fatat, which we'll do as a collaborative translation. So a bunch of us will work together in translating different chapters. We're going to serialize it. So like, you know, Hassan Abdel Qaddous or Charles Dickens' novel, which would come out, you know, once a week. So we'll publish them once a week. And then at the end, we'll publish in a book form in order to create new ways for people to join in and access literature. And we've been so pleased that Karima has been part of this journey with us for the last 4 or 5 years.
Meriem as well.
And I wanted to start out by, you know, I'm sure many of you, most of you, maybe all of you already know Karima's work, but I wanted Karima to talk about how she started in her journey in writing and publishing, and just go ahead and take it away.
So thank you, first of all, for coming in, for being here to hear me, to listen to me. I started writing when I was so young, like 10, 11 years old. And I started with like a short story at the time. And I remember that the principal, the main character of the story was a woman, was a girl, whose name was Noura. I really remember the name very well. And maybe that's what explains why I am interested with writing about the lives of women. Because I grew up in an environment of women, where women were telling stories. They were like, you know, Amazigh women are so into telling stories. They are the ones who preserved our culture, Moroccan culture, orally. And I felt like a need or urge to express their feelings, to talk about their stories, to tell their stories, because I had the blessing of education, of writing. I could write, I could read, so I wanted to talk about them and to capture their lives. And also I wrote some poetry in the beginning of my career, but I think they are like some failed attempts to write. And then I started writing short stories, and they were like more mature than in the beginning, which is, I think, you know, my collection of short stories, Nazif Akhir al-Hulm, that won the prize of young writers in Morocco. It was like, I started writing it when I was 18, and I finished it when I was 20, I think. But I was just writing sometimes. And then I collected them and applied for the prize of the Union of Young Writers in Morocco, and I got the prize. And this was the push that made me sure that I really want to be a writer. So that's how it started, and then I started writing my novels.
Right.
Yeah.
And now you just told me outside that you have 7 sisters, you said?
7.
Now, Banat Sabbar makes, like, I see it in a different way now.
Yeah.
So then you moved on to writing Banat Sabbar, the Cactus Girls, which is kind of, it's a shared narrative. It's different. It's polyvocal. It's different, told by different characters, different points of view, which shares some of the qualities of short story writing, but then also brings it together into a lot. How did you make that leap into plotting out a novel? Did you plan it? Did you make a storyboard for it first, or did you just kind of jump in to your characters' voices?
Yes, I do plan for my novels, and as I grow up, as I become more mature, I feel like I have to plan for a novel because it's a very big space, it's a very long story, you have so many characters, you should really know how to play with them, how to use them, and I feel like the plan helps me control it more, so I do work with plans, and this is what I did for Banat Sabbar as well. Even though it was my first experience and I hadn't heard at the time about writers who make plans or anything, it just came spontaneously. So,
and then with a short story like this one, Slender Thorn Digs Into My Foot, which is a very short story, it's under 1,000 words, that you just write and is a flash of inspiration, like a poem, or how do you work on something so short?
It was kind of inspiration, of course, because I believe that the difference between a novel and a short story is this, because when it comes to writing a novel, you should plan, you should be disciplined, you should wake up every morning, you should make a time for that to be able to finish it and to build this big world that you have. But for short stories, you have like a very small space to play in, and you have to express the feelings of the characters, their life, their story, and everything within a very small space. So I think it needs, for me at least, I need to be inspired to be able to write a short story. And for A Slender Thorn, it was a perfect work of inspiration, because I just had the idea and I wrote it in one sitting, and I had to finish it, the same day, so I can put on all the story I had in my head. Yeah.
That's amazing, because there's so many layers to it, actually. There's the present, there's her relationship with her husband, there's her relationship with her father, there's her childhood, there's a lot of things in there packed in that really tight space.
Yeah, there are a lot of complicated feelings, actually, that were like compressed. And you have to, because I had to write it within 1,000 words, so I had to like compress, because I am used to write novels, so I am used to have all the space to express what I want to express. But for the short story, I had to like clean it, I had to polish it, to delete some things that don't play any role in the story, to say the things I have to say, the shortest possible, So that was what was hard about the short story.
And just to say, it works incredibly well. I was not one of the judges for the prize. Those were Mansour Azzeddin, Shahla Jaili, and Sara Anani. But this was the one story where everyone was like, I love this. Everything else was kind of a fight. For anyone who's been on a panel of literary judges before, there's a lot of discussion. People don't tend to agree on everything. But on this story, everybody agreed. So.
Thank you. I am blessed.
So, how did you discover Catherine van de Weet, who translated this work and who translated her earlier work for our previous story prize, and who's done a sample of Cactus Girls? How did you find her? I'm curious about this kind of people's different pathways to translation.
It was actually Sawad Hussein, a very famous translator. from Arabic to English, and from French as well. She translates from French as well, I think, who was looking for some Moroccan literature to read, and she asked a friend, writer, who suggested my book as well. He suggested some books for her to read, and he suggested my book, Cactus Girls, Banat Sabbar in Arabic. And she found it like interesting, and she loved it. So she told me that she has a friend who is a translator who wants to translate something, and this is how we got to know each other. Yeah, she contacted me, and then we started working together.
Ah, excellent. Yeah. So I don't know how familiar
it
people
was
are
like
with,
a coincidence.
Right. Pathways to Translations work a lot on these kind of small moments of discovery, and Savad is very good at this of reading very widely, but then she can't. She would commit to doing 10 projects a year if you let her, but then yes, to then pass it along to somebody else.
Yeah. Yes.
And
because Catherine at the time was looking for something, I guess, something interpeeling, something interesting. So, yeah, this is how it was.
So we were talking
happened.
earlier about the very difficult pitch process into English, and I wondered if you could talk a little bit about. So then you find a translator who is passionate about your book, who loves your book, who then makes a sample of the book, and then what happens?
What happens is that the process is so hard, so long, and you need maturity and patience to be able to wait and to believe in your project and your work, even though you are getting rejected maybe from publishers, even if you are maybe you don't have the budget to publish it in English. So I think it's about the market, it's about the budget, it's about a lot of other things that have nothing to do with the quality of your work. So yeah, but it's a very hard and long journey.
Yeah, because for instance, there was a publisher that was passionate about the book and wanted the book.
Yeah, there was a publisher. She is Spanish, but she is in the UK, and she was so interested in the book, in publishing Banat Sabbar in English. But then there was the problem of having a grant to be able to finance the publishing the novel. So we couldn't make it because we couldn't get the grant, and grants as well are not, like there is a jury, there are people who decide, who have tastes, their own tastes, and it's not always.
And then they also are looking for. Maybe there was a Moroccan book last year, and so we can't do another Moroccan book this year.
Yeah.
This year we have to do a book from Niger or.
There are
wherever,
a lot of other considerations. That have nothing to do with the book and its subject. And she is still interested, by the way, that publisher.
If anyone has a few $1,000.
Yeah. Exactly. It's about money.
Yeah. So can you talk also a little bit about how you work with Catherine? So during the translation process, or how you work with other translators translating into Turkish, for instance, or into French. How is that relationship? They send you the work and you comment on it, or they ask you questions?
It depends on the language, actually. For example, because I know English, I know French, I do read literature in English and French. So when there is a translator to French or English, they do send me the samples, they do send me the text and the first draft, and I read with them, I give them some remarks, sometimes they ask me questions and they send me the examples. Well, I can read, but when it's about a language like Slovene, for example, and my short story was translated into Slovene as well, I was like just staring at the text. She didn't even ask me, of course, because she knows I don't know the language. I don't even know their letters.
Yes.
So I just looked at it and I was like, okay.
Yeah, I know. I think in this case you have to develop a sense of trust for the translator, right? This translator, she's also a writer. She's won some awards in Slovenian, so I assume that I'm hoping that she's good. That's
yeah. I just took some parts of the story in Slovene, actually, and I put them in Google Translation.
And
to
what did you
Arabic,
find?
to English and to French. Yeah, it was okay. Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so what is the, and then how do you, so you work with a translator into Turkish as well, or?
No, not into Turkish, French and English, Slovene and Spanish as well. By the way, there was a text that I've written for a writer in Spain who wanted to include it. He wanted something about my life actually in a literary way, and to include it in a magazine, a very big magazine that they have. And he really wanted my voice, but I was like, how can you translate it into Spanish? He doesn't know Spanish. But then he doesn't know Arabic.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. So then he gave it to a translator, but then I just stared at the text again. I understood some words because I know a little bit Spanish, but not that much to understand a literary text. But so, you know, like, but for French and English, I feel like in control. I feel like I even give remarks, you know, I even ask about things, and they ask me about things. And it's generally about the context. Sometimes there are some things that a translator from the US can't understand about Moroccan context. I remember with Catherine, there was a sentence in a dialogue in my novel, Cactus Girls. In Berber, in Amazigh, it was Rabbi sin Mimuna, Mimuna sin Rabbi, which means literally in English, Mimuna knows God and God knows Mimuna. And it means that this is not your business. It's none of your business in English, okay? So when Catherine was reading, of course, I wrote it in Berber, and then I made it between parentheses in Arabic. So she read it in Arabic, but she didn't understand. And I had to explain it to her. And when she understood the context, she could translate it well into English. Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is another skill as a translator, right? To understand when you don't know, when you can see there is more context here, and then to ask the author to kind of clarify that for you.
Yeah.
I wondered if ever once you see your own work in translation in another language written by someone else, if you ever see it in a different way, if you ever notice things about it or feel differently about it than you did in the Arabic.
I don't know, but I just feel like now I have the opportunity to reach more readers in other cultures who will read my soul, you know, somehow. But it gives it also another soul to the work without, like, with preserving its own soul, you know. So I just like this experience, and I like when it's French or English. So I can read it and like discover, sometimes I even discover some other layers in the work, you know, that I wouldn't see in the language, in the original language, in Arabic. Yeah, but my work as a writer is also, how to say, based on translation because of my background, because I am Amazigh, and my mother tongue is Amazigh language, and then I learned Darija, and I learned Arabic language, and then French, and then English, and then Turkish. So I am like thinking in all of these languages, and I translate into Arabic when I write. Like I translate in my head before writing. Sometimes there are some ideas that come in Turkish to my mind, even though I don't know Turkish that well, you know. Like my Turkish is bad, but still there are some things that come to my mind in Turkish, and I have to translate them to be able, and then to write them in Arabic language.
Right.
In literary work, I'm talking about the literary work.
Right. So,
yeah.
So you're imagining the story in a combination of Amazigh, Darija,
exactly.
Turkish, whatever, French, and then
all
you
the languages I
translate
have to speak
into Fusha to put it onto the page.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah.
So I wanted to come back to this question that we talked about on the podcast as well, that you had written on social media something about that you're committed to being fearless in your writing, and I wondered if you could talk a bit about what that means to you.
I think it means that when I am writing, I don't think about anyone. I don't think about anything. I don't think about my father, God, or anything, you know. I just think about what I write, and I try to write honestly, with honesty and authenticity. I just try to be the character, you know, I am writing about, even though the character is different or doesn't represent my ideas or my principles. But I just try to be free in writing, and I don't care about what people would say. Of course, I like when people come to me and like my books. But, and of course, I accept criticism as well, and I think it's important. And I think also the eyes of readers are important, and they are complete in the literary work. And they allow the writers to see some things that they wouldn't see without the eyes of readers in their own work. But I think being fearless means that you are free in your writing, and you don't think about taboos, for example. You are not afraid of taboos. You are not afraid of like judgments of people, being judged. But of course, I can't say that I don't have this procrastination thing that comes out of fear of judgment, but I am afraid of the judgment that comes about the quality of my work, I mean, not about the subjects I talk about or the topics I approach in my work. Yeah.
But I mean, one thing that has really struck me is how extremely hardworking you are with your writing, right? So you have your real job, your paying job, which is in journalism, that you do during the day. But then every day, maybe not every day, but it seems like you really are committed to building out your fictional worlds day after day in this, you know, in a way that is some inspiration, obviously, and joy, but also hard work.
Of course, I think discipline is everything. I know a lot of people who are talented, who write very beautiful things that I personally read with joy, but because they are not disciplined, they couldn't publish books, they couldn't write books, they couldn't finish their works, and they told me that, like, how do you do? I say that it's just that I sit and I write, that's it, you know, like, but I have to wake up in the morning very early to do so. I wake up at 5, 6 every day, and I write until 8, 9, and then I go to work. And after work, sometimes I write, sometimes not, because I like cooking as well. So I come to cook. And yeah, so it's like that every day. Sometimes, of course, I have some hard times to write, but still I believe that committing is important. Like, even if you will write only one sentence, only one paragraph, it's okay, you know, but you should write to be able to finish your work, to build that world. And then, of course, you can go back to the work and polish it and rewrite it and read it again, you know.
I was doing an event with the Syrian writer Meriem Essaoudy a couple days ago, and she was saying that she loves the process of writing the book initially, and then she finds it, you know, the process of editing it, she hates it, but she must sit down every day. So how do you feel about these two different processes of writing the book and editing?
For me, it's the opposite.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it's hard when I build that world, but then when I go back to edit it, I have the material now, I have everything, I have the characters, I have the essence of the work. Now I am just like enjoying, it's like playing for me. I am just enjoying building the sentences, saying them beautifully, you know. So for me, it's the opposite. Yeah, I like the editing process, and when I hear that some people have their own editors, I am like, and what do you do if you have an editor, you know? As a writer, you should, of course, I respect that, and I would accept some remarks from editors. It's good to have another eye on your work, but I think that this editing, like rewriting the sentences, rewriting the paragraphs, saying it in a different way, is your job as a writer. Yeah. You know, and I know big writers, like famous writers like Orhan Pamuk, for example, who believes that editing is the job of the writer, you know. Yeah, it's part of writing. Yeah.
So I wanted to go back to Banetta Sabat, and you won the prize for your short story collection and for Banetta Sabat right at the beginning of your career, and that you talked about this prize as changing things, as making you feel like you could commit to this as a kind of a for your life. And I wondered what kinds of prizes and what kinds of things do you think would you like to see exist for young Moroccan writers in order to make more opportunities?
I think prizes for young people, prizes for novels. I think more prizes for novels, but not not those big prizes, you know. Because I don't know. Sometimes it's just about some names because they are famous. Sometimes it's about that those writers are the friends of the judges. I don't know, you know. So I would like a prize that is honest in, like, valuing and how to say, valuing, like the literary
evaluating,
work. Evaluating. So, thank you. Evaluating the literary work, you know, like if it's really literature, if it's really beautifully written, even though you don't like the subject or you don't like that the characters are women. Because there are some writers and some big writers even who think that this is feminine writing, you know, feminine literature, like to put it in a category, to categorize it, you know, but it's just literature. And
just because it's got majority women in it, which we happen to be half of the population. Yeah,
but it's just because you chose, your main character is a woman. It's feminine literature. It's not literature. It's feminine literature, and it's less than literature. But it's just a woman, you know. It's a woman who sees the world through her own eyes, and we can't see the world through the eyes of only men, you know. So I think.
So how do you deal with this kind of reception of your book? Let's say somebody, critics or whatever, call this, you know, a chick lit or whatever, you know, you might want to call it feminine literature, and dismissively, it's not serious literature. How do you or do you not respond at all to that kind of criticism?
Now I don't respond. In the beginning, I was like kind of angry. I was being angry. I was trying to explain, you know. Now I don't respond. I just write, and I will write always about women, you know. Because I believe that we need to see the world through the eyes of women. I believe we need to express their feelings, and I believe that a woman would do that better than a man. Even though, of course, we have a lot of works written by men that expressed women beautifully, but still, I think we need more work that women write about women.
So what are some of the things that you think? Some of the things that I noticed, like women writers will write about, for instance, sexual harassment. That, I mean, you can see in a man's novel with women characters that are fully fleshed out and really interesting, but that miss some of these details about what it's like your life to be a woman. And I think some of these are like moments of sexual harassment, you know, other moments that maybe they never experienced.
Yeah, like the inner lives of women. But I think I read Khalid al-Husseini's novel recently. It was in Arabic, Alf Shamsin Sati'a. I found it only in Arabic in Turkey. And it's really described the lives of women in a very beautiful way that I wouldn't even do that myself. You know, I don't know how he would catch these moments of women's lives that beautifully, you know. It was so good. I liked it. Yeah.
So speaking of, so you live in Turkey now. How do you discover new Moroccan literature, new Arabic literature, new world literature? How do you find new writers, new books that you're interested in?
Yeah, through social media, of course, because I am on social media, and I come to the book fair every year. I buy books, I take them with me. Sometimes I go to the bookstores, Arabic bookstores in Istanbul, and I try to get books, even though it's a bit hard because it's not an Arabic-speaking country. And there is also the difficulty of having, like, making events around Arabic books, because you have just a few Arabic bookstores that are so small, and the Arab people there are like not that much, so you don't have a lot of a big audience.
Although there is a large Arabic-speaking population in Turkey.
Yeah, but they are not all interested in literature. Yeah.
So I wondered if we had any questions, if anybody wanted to. Okay. Okay. We have a number of questions, so I'm going to throw them. Oh, you have a special microphone for the. Okay.
Well, hello everyone. First of all, I'm glad to be here. I'm Amal Haddadi. I'm Azir too, so we might be cousins from somewhere.
Maybe, yeah.
I had like a couple of questions, and what I wanted to ask first, when you mentioned planning, is it like, what is it the first thing that you go around planning? Like, do you plan the messages? Do you plan the events? Do you plan the characters and how you portray them, etc.? Like, what is the first thing that you go around inputting? The second question is regarding the eternal fight of procrastination. What you said, like, it's all about commitment and discipline. So you wake up every morning at a set time. No matter how much you write, the most important thing is to write. The thing is how do you get yourself to get up in the first place and not to get a little more sleep?
Just to get up, you know. You know how to get up.
I think it also becomes a habit, right? Like you get into the rhythm of this. But so she also
the repetition helps. Yeah, the repetition helps. So your first question
was about planning.
Should I answer now, or would you want to take? Yeah, I think
now, otherwise we'll forget.
Yeah. So I just when I plan for the events that will happen, what will happen in the story, and what's the story about, you know. But I have never put an end in the beginning. I just leave it until the end, you know, until it happens itself, because I wouldn't know how the characters would evolve in my story, you know. And then, of course, I write about the characters, who they are, their names, you know, how they look like, how they think, how they see life, everything, how their relationships with each other. And then I start writing, but sometimes I have some changes in the plan, because the characters also move in the story as they want, as they get their own characteristics, their own, as they grow in the story, they start to build their own personality themselves, and they start to move in the story as they want, you know. Sometimes they even control me. I can't control them, you know, like that woman who is like that, she would do that, not this, not what I wanted her to do, you know. So this is how I do it. And for waking up, you know, you just wake up. It will be hard in the first day, in the first day, but after that it will be easier, you know, with repetition and time. Yeah. But I think coaches talk about that better than me.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy and glad to be here with you today. My name is Iman Darazi, a PhD candidate at Abd Malik Saadi University. And the research of my PhD is about female writers, contemporary ones. So I have read some of your works, Cactus Girls and a short story. And yes, I have new ones to read too. Just wondering about like the works and the writers who shaped the way you write. So I'm sure every writer is an avid reader, of course, and I'm sure that that you were exposed to a wide variety of literary works, maybe Moroccan literary works or English, French ones. So can you name like some of the writers that really influence the way you write? This is my first question, and my second question is about language. So you choose to write in Arabic, though you're like versed in French and English. So what informs this choice? Like, why did you choose to write in Arabic? And this leads me to my third question, and I'm sorry if I'm like asking you too many questions. Who do you write for? Like when you write, do you have like specific audience in mind, or do you write for the Moroccan audience, Moroccan readers, or do you write for foreign readers? Like, yeah, I hope you got my question. Thank you.
Okay. So for the first question, of course, I read everything. I was reading everything when I started reading. And then I like built or made my taste in reading. I was reading philosophy, sociology, psychology, and all of that actually affected my work. I was reading novels, especially Russian literature, French, you know, all the names, like the classics. Victor Hugo, Dostoevsky, Jane Austen, George Sand, you know, and of course females as well. And yeah, Arabic literature as well. I don't know. I was just taking books, grabbing books. I wasn't even like seeing if this writer is famous or not, if he is good or not, you know, like I read Layla Uthman, I read Haifa Baitar, I read even some names that are not known, you know. That's how I built my taste in literature. And yeah, realistic literature, but not science fiction, because I don't like science fiction. Yeah, I find that our reality is more fascinating than science fiction sometimes. So, yeah.
But yeah, you have to also read the books that you find that you don't like along the way as you become a sponge to know what it is you want to do with your book.
Yeah.
It's so sorry. What were questions 2 and 3?
The second?
Choice of language. Ah, okay.
Maybe it's because I discovered literature in Arabic language the first time, and I loved literature, and I loved it like that. And when I started writing, it was sort of imitating what I was reading as well, what I liked reading, you know. And I was imitating in Arabic. Of course, after that, I discovered French literature, English literature. I was reading them in their own languages as well. Sometimes I was reading the English and then the Arabic after that. Sometimes I read the French and the Arabic after that, you know. So I don't know, maybe it's because of that. Yeah. Then I didn't develop my English and French skills in literature like Arabic, because I chose to continue in Arabic. And I like the language as well because it's so rich. I find it so rich, richer than other languages. And it allows me also to, as I said, I talked about translation. I translate in my head before writing. Arabic, I feel like Arabic allows me to translate these things, like even from English, for example, and they still make sense in Arabic while they preserve their English tone. I don't know. But sometimes I have something in Arabic or Berber and I try to say it to an English friend or someone, an English-speaking person, and they are like, I just try to translate it literally, not because I don't know the meaning, but because I want them to to hear it as it is, you know, because it's beautiful as it is, but they don't get it, they don't understand it. So, but I feel like Arabic allows me to do that. But maybe it's just because I know the language very well that I can translate well to Arabic, all the languages I have in my head. Yeah.
You did have a third question. Audience. Okay.
Audience, everyone, not just females, not just women. Yeah, everyone who likes literature, everyone who likes realistic literature, realistic books and novels, everyone who will find themselves in my books, maybe everyone who didn't know something that I said maybe in my book while I was discovering it myself. Because while I am writing, I also discover. It doesn't mean that I knew these things before. Sometimes I know them throughout the journey of writing. You know, I discover them throughout the journey. So, yeah, everyone who can find themselves in it.
Yeah, no, one of the things that Karima had said, oh, this is the story that she sent in, this is a very Moroccan story. But I found it also to be, at the same time as being a very Moroccan story, an extremely universal story. Who doesn't have a relationship with their parents, or, so anybody can relate to this story. So who has the microphone now? You do. Okay.
Hello everyone. My name is Muhammad Thani Adam. I'm PhD holder in Arabic language. I'm a graduate from King Khalid University in Saudi Arabia. I'm so glad and happy to be here with you today. I come here in Morocco, I don't have any idea about the British Council. My question is, can you give me because I'm so interested about the translation into English from Arabic language. Can you give me the shortcut or short way to be an expert in translation like you? Thank you so much.
The short way to become an expert in literary translation. I'm afraid that much like Karima gets up every morning and works on from 5 a.m. or whatever on her work, that the short way to becoming an expert in literary translation is the long way, which is working on it day after day. But also, I think publishing your work is important. So reaching out to not just being in your own head. I don't know if you feel the same way about writing, but that publishing is an important part of it, and getting the feedback is an important part of that. So volunteering for literary magazines, getting your work out there, and getting feedback from an editor, from readers, seeing what you can improve on each time, again and again.
Yeah, I think that publishing is important as well. You need to know if your work is gonna be published or not, because one important part of writing is imagining also the eyes of readers, like you have the readers in front of you, you write for people to read, so yeah, it's important, even though you shouldn't think about it so much and be bothered all the time with it. I mean, for example, even though I published 2 books before, when I was writing the third one, I was so worried about publishing, like if I will find the suitable publisher for this, and yeah, but it shouldn't block you. It shouldn't block you.
Right. Do we have? I can just.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for everyone. Thanks for British Council. I am a PhD student, so English is not my field. My specialist is in the international relationship. Well, here I would like to say thanks to Karima as Arabian leader woman, everyone in Arab world. By the way, I am from Yemen. I'm not Moroccan. So everyone knows that in Arab world that woman is the queen of kitchen. But today, Karima, with high appreciate to her that she is queen of book. I would like here to say, to give her, how to say it in English?
Applause.
Yeah. I'm sorry for my bad English because I'm not the. Well, here my question is to Karima: do you write about novels, children novels? Thanks.
Should I answer?
I don't know. She doesn't. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, hello. My name is Meriem Essaoudy. I am a Moroccan-British filmmaker. I've been living here in Morocco since 2006. I made a few movies, and I'm also from the Rif region, from Tamsaman. And I was going to ask Karima, as a writer, she writes in Arabic, how does she feel about the duality of being considered Arab writer and being Tamazight? Have you thought about writing in Tamazight, in Tifinagh, for example, to translate into Tifinagh your books, for example, especially the first one, Bayat al-Sabbar? And also, have you been approached by a producer or filmmaker about your first book about Bayat al-Sabbar? Have you been approached to make an movie adaptation about it? And if it happens, will it be in Arabic or in Tamazight? I am interested myself by that project. That's why.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Are we going to see a movie of Cactus Girls?
Yeah, I wish. I hope. I hope so. Yeah, but I think it would be good in Amazigh as a movie or series, but I don't know as a book, because who would read it? Unfortunately, we don't know Tifinagh. I am Amazigh myself, but I don't know Tifinagh. I know how to write Amazigh in Latin letters, but not in Tifinagh. I know just some letters. My sisters who are younger than me, they know better than me, but they don't use it, they don't read it. Like even when we see it in posters or something, we tend to read French and Arabic before reading Tifinagh, before trying even to read Tifinagh. It's beautiful to see it, of course, but I think it's a problem that is more profound than this. Like that is not going to be solved with me writing in Tifinagh. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. My name is Mohammed Amin Kouhli. I work at the British Council, and I have two questions for you. One has to do with translation, and my question is, so have you ever been in disagreement or faced a disagreement with the translator concerning an aspect of your book, of the translation of your book, maybe a certain part of your book that you wanted it to be translated in a specific way, but you feel like the meaning was lost by the translator? Have you ever faced that with the translation? And if so, how do you navigate that with the translator? How do you work together to find a solution? And my second question is a follow-up to a few questions that were asked today, which regarded the language. Would you ever consider writing in English instead? I mean, you have a perfect grasp of the language. So that's my question. Thank you very much.
Should I answer?
Go ahead.
Okay.
I mean, have you had? I can speak to. Of course, there are times when there's not just the translator and the writer. There's also the editor and the publisher who come into the process as well. And I have found that it's often the editor and the publisher who have different ideas. There was one project that I was working on. It was a young adult novel. And the publisher told me, they're playing Minecraft or Fortnite, I can't remember what it was, and they've got Spider-Man on the walls. This doesn't seem realistic for Syria to me. So I want you to ask the author if it's okay to put a decorative plate on the wall in a children's bedroom. Does children have decorative plates on the wall in any country? I never heard of this. But I think there definitely are these kind of fights. Confrontations. I see the relationship between the translator and the author usually as more collaborative, working together, trying to solve it, to create, and then sometimes the publisher and the editor come in to try and, with their own opinions about what the book should be. I don't know if you've had any conflicts with.
Never, never with Catherine. I believe there is something called good sense. When you have a good sense and the translator has a good sense, you can get along at the end of the day. Yeah, and when you trust also the translator's skills, you just trust them, and you know that they know their language better than you do, because it's their mother tongue, it's their language, and they know how to take your book or your work to their language, like to make it dressed
Right.
in their language.
Right.
So I think it's about that trust and good sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I haven't arrived yet to the point of having a fight or a confrontation with a publisher or someone wanting to change something in my book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, hopefully
never.
your translator will have that fight for you. I think my author doesn't even know that they wanted to take the Spider-Man off the walls. So I think we could maybe have one more question.
Hello.
Oh, okay.
My name is Huda Al-Arud. I'm an English teacher. Also, I'm a master's student. I really enjoyed listening to both of you. The conversation was so lovely. I've got 3 questions, very short. Simple.
Okay.
So the first question, what was this moment where you said to yourself that I'm a writer? So you mentioned that you started working on writing at the age of 10, which is really great. So what was this point specifically where you said to yourself, I really want to be a writer and add something to this literary, let's say, landscape? The second question has to do with, for example, what are the themes that you focus the most on each novel or each work of you? And the last thing, what are some advice that you would love to advise those writers or young writers who want also to be writers and want to discover this world? Thank you.
Okay, so your first question was about when did I know that I wanted to be a writer? I think it's when I started writing my novel, my first novel, Cactus Girls. I just decided that I should write a novel, I should publish a book, and I should say what I need to say, you know, and I should write this story I have. And that is, I believe, different than a lot of stories that are being written in Morocco, in North Africa and Middle East. And the subject is also new, was new. At the time, there was a discussion in Morocco at the time about inheritance, about equality in inheritance. And I have heard a lot of stories of women who were like, who lived injustice because of this law of Tasib. I don't know what it is in English, but it's this law that dictates that when a man has only girls, he has to, when he dies, he should, like his siblings have the right to his properties as well. And I saw and I read, I think there was a book of Sumaya Nouman Gissus about this subject, and she told the stories of a lot of women. It's like a sociological book of women who suffered a lot because of this law, and that it's time in Morocco to change this law because we became an individual society somehow, and we are not in this tribal system anymore like before, when this law was like in the beginning of Islam. So I felt like because of these stories I heard and because of my story myself, it didn't happen to me, of course, but I have 7 sisters. Like, we are a family of only sisters. So it's also personal for me. It's not just... And I think that's what made it like affect people a lot. It's because I talk a lot of... I consider it as my personal story, even though it didn't happen to me. So it's at the time, and especially after I published it, and I think I was lucky because I published it with a big publishing house in Morocco, Le Fennec. And there were like famous writers that I like who really encouraged me, and they told me that the story deserves to be published. And I felt like, yeah, I can be a writer as I always wanted, you know. I wanted it, but it's at the time when I decided, like, yes, I have to be a writer because I need to, you know. It's not just because I want fame or money, or I think I don't have any of that already. Yeah.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Our time is expired. We're out of time, sorry. We can't take any more questions. I'm so sorry. But thank you to everybody for coming. If you have a question for either of us, I guess individually you can probably pigeonhole us, but I think we're obligated now to leave the room.